Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Down by Contact Football, episode 10 of the podcast. We've hit a milestone. Our first double-digit episode.
Woo.
Woohoo. All right. Thanks for joining us again. Glad to have you back. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at DBC_football. Check us out on YouTube, DBC Football, or at www.dbcfootball.com, our blog and photo galleries. Thanks for joining us. As always, I'm joined here by Tom. Tom, how are you?
Pretty good.
I'm glad to hear it. You pretty excited for this weekend, Tom?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Getting married.
Tom is getting hitched. Getting hitched, Tommy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, you're taking the leap.
I am.
You're
next.
No way. And also here today is Bill. Bill, how you doing?
Greetings and salutations. I'm doing very well.
Awesome. All good things.
Tom participating in the first of, I don't know how many, at least 2 funerals we'll have.
There you go. Signing up for the funeral. Tommy Two-Tone.
It happens.
All right. Let's jump right into our first segment here on episode 10 of the DBC Football Podcast. Tom, this week in NFL history, what do you got for us?
All right. This week in NFL history, in 1967, an ownership group led by Paul Brown was awarded a franchise, the Cincinnati Bengals, as the three of us definitely know. In 1960,
can I jump in there?
You can.
I can jump in. I just have to take a lighter moment up. Right, the lighter's up in the sky. I'm waving it side to side for my mom.
Are.
My mother is a Bengals fan. I just had to get that out there. Shout out to Mom. Love you, Mom.
All right. In 1968, George Halas retired as the head coach of the Bears. He did remain the owner until his death in '83, though. In 1992. The NFL approved the additions of the Panthers and the Jaguars. However, both teams did not play until '95.
Yeah, and very shockingly, both teams had some pretty early success.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bill Polian running the show from a general manager side for the Panthers in the mid to late 90s, built himself a pretty good team. And Tom Coughlin, who is again running the show in Jacksonville, but as the head coach from 95 on, actually got them to an AFC championship right away. So good little bit of history. What else you got, Tom?
Just some notable birthdays this week. We got former running back Ricky Williams.
And pause. All right, pausing. Ricky Williams. Beings that were outside of Philadelphia, and that's our home area, I always have to bring up, anytime Ricky Williams' name is brought up, right? University of Texas, the guy was a freak. A little bit troubled, perhaps.
You think?
Maybe. Turned it back on late in his career, but Philadelphia Eagles fans were so certain we were getting Ricky Williams, there was almost a riot on draft night, and Donovan McNabb famously booed when he was drafted over Ricky Williams. Hindsight?
Pretty
solid
decision. I'm
decision.
sure you guys won that one.
Yeah, definitely a good decision.
And it was Ricky Williams was part of the second worst trade in NFL history, behind the Herschel Walker trade, which built the Cowboys dynasty in the 90s. But Mike Ditka, the head coach at the time of the New Orleans Saints, gave up his entire draft class and more to get Ricky Williams. So I always, that little bit of NFL history tied to Ricky Williams is delightful.
It is.
So moving right along.
All right. And we also have Julian Edelman, Aaron Donald, Brian Urlacher, Vontae Davis, and Jim Mora, which he provided one of
playoffs?
The greatest.
You want to talk about playoffs?
Playoffs?
Are you kidding me? Playoffs?
One of the greatest sound bites, as we just heard, almost identical in NFL history. So.
Yeah, if anyone hasn't heard that entire press conference, it's pure gold from start to finish.
Yeah, hop on YouTube and just type in Jim Mora meltdown, and you'll find some great clips. Even as a commentator on NFL Network when he briefly worked on there, it's just delightful to hear that man talk football. Just so much passion and anger out of that man. So. Happy birthday to all of those folks, especially you, Jim Mora.
Yep.
You kidding me? Playoffs? Is that it, Tom?
Don't talk about playoffs.
That is all I got for this week.
All right. Well, then let's jump on over and talk about the news around the league. A few things going on. The No Fun League, no more. The NFL has made a rule change to make the league and the game a little bit more fun again. Roger Goodell met with about 80 people, retired players, officials, players, current, and discussed touchdown celebrations. Now, if you were a football fan in the mid-2000s, that was the height, I would say, of the touchdown celebration game. You had T.O., Steve Smith, and Chad Johnson or Ochocinco, depending on how you feel.
And Randy Moss.
Sometimes Randy Moss, to a little bit of a lesser extent, but yeah, the famous mooning. Those guys, they went at it, and they tried to be as clever as they could with touchdown celebrations, and it was a lot of fun to watch. And then there was, the conversation of it's not really sportsmanlike, it's setting a bad example for kids. And I do get that portion of it, but these guys want to have fun. They're out there devoting, now granted they're getting paid millions of dollars, but they're devoting so much time and effort into this game. And at the end of the day, it is a game. So seeing them, the rule change has been stated as the football is now allowed to be used as a prop again. So think back to the Steve Smith wipes the... Was it Steve Smith or Chad Johnson? I believe it was Steve Smith. He wiped the baby, used the football was the baby, and he changed the diaper. You can go to the ground, and I'll stay right on Steve Smith. He had the canoe celebration, right, where he paddled to one side and then quickly paddled to the other side. It was hilarious. And you can actually have group demonstrations. Think the replacements, the bowling celebration, where everybody falls down like bowling pins. So those three things are now allowed. However, the Antonio Brown 3 twerk, the 3-pump twerk, is still not allowed. So 2 pumps max on your twerk. So
got it.
You got to twerk it out sometimes when you score a touchdown.
Keep that up in the head.
Yeah, the look on Bill's face, priceless.
Yeah, I'm not gonna comment on twerking. My opinion on the whole, and I'll throw taunting in there as well. I'm not a big fan of the no celebration, no taunting, with a bit of a caveat in that as long as something doesn't interrupt the flow of the game, I don't care.
Right.
I mean, as long as someone isn't inciting someone to, get physical, violent physical, actually attacking and fighting, I don't care. The examples you brought up, I mean, if they go overly long, then yeah, I have an issue with that. But if it's something that just you do it real quick and then you're in and out, I don't know what the big deal is. And there's trash talking in any sports.
Absolutely.
So taunting is something that, it's irritating to the person who's being taunted. But again, as long as it doesn't interrupt the flow of the game, I don't think there should be rules against it.
Yeah, I mean, and I can take two of the back in the mid-2000s, the two of the guys that celebrated the most. I'll start with T.O. He had the T.O., he threw the popcorn in his face, right, because he always said, get your popcorn ready. Or even the Sharpie thing where he pulled the Sharpie out and he signed the football. It doesn't hurt anyone, No. But then you take a situation where T.O. ran to the 50-yard line to completely disrespect a team, being the Dallas Cowboys, and then getting physically hit for it.
Yep.
First of all, he deserved it, the non-Hall of Famer. And second of all, it took extra time, right? So he had to sprint 50 yards down the field, make a show at the 50-yard line. I get that. Get rid of that crap. And then you have someone like Chad Johnson or Ochocinco who used the pylon as a tee, hit the ball. It was really funny. And then you had on the flip side of the coin, you had him go get the gold coat and make a big spectacle on the side of the field. So keep it decent, keep it short. Shouldn't really hurt anyone's feelings.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, these guys are entertainers. I mean, if you're taking away the celebration, where's the entertainment?
Yeah, if I can give an example of what I mean by taunting that doesn't bother me, and even if I don't like the player and I might be annoyed, but not in such a degree that, Dylan's making the Zeke feed me stuff. I mean, I guess that's an example, but no, I was thinking of Golden Tate when he was still in Seattle, I think,
Seattle,
right? Yeah, and he was doing the thing where he would wave in someone's face as he's running and completing the play's still going on. Things finish out the way they're supposed to. No one gets hurt. Who cares?
Yeah.
But he was penalized for it. I don't think he should have been, but that's my opinion. Others disagree, and that's fine.
Golden Tate, the MVP. All right. What else? So the league also shortened overtime from 15 to 10 minutes for, I'm doing air quotes here, safety reasons. In the last 5 years, there have been 83 overtime games. Only 22 of them were 10 minutes or longer. So the average overtime game is actually time in overtime, 7 minutes, 43 seconds. So I think this is more of a PR thing. We're making the game safer, but truthfully, I don't think it has much impact.
Yeah. Most, like you said, most games overtime games are decided before that 10 minutes.
It's a show. It's going to be a distinction without a difference, really.
Yeah, maybe it changes some thinking in that overtime period. Maybe teams are a little bit more aggressive, but all in all,
maybe 1 or 2 more ties a year at most.
Yeah.
It's a show. That's what that is.
Yeah. Also, floating around the NFL, record rainfall in Southern California has led to the delay of the new Inglewood/LA stadium that's to be shared by the Chargers and the Rams. So the Super Bowl 55 in 2021, has been moved to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay really excited to get themselves another Super Bowl. Super Bowl 56 will now be the Inglewood project, the super stadium being built. So if you kind of take a look at the next few Super Bowls this year, you have Super Bowl 52 in Minnesota, that brand new stadium, which is beautiful. 53 in Atlanta's new stadium, which again, beautiful. And then you have Miami hosting again, as they do every few years, Super Bowl 54. Yeah, so you get South Florida. Much better weather down there around February.
People like to visit Florida until they, eventually go die there.
Exactly. So
a little morbid.
We'll end that topic on a morbid note.
People move to Florida to retire all the time, Tom. Just saying.
Am I wrong, dude?
Am I wrong, dude?
Calmer than you are. All right. So a little bit sadder news here. Cortez Kennedy has passed away at 48 years old. The Hall of Famer spent his entire career with the Seahawks. Former defensive tackle, drafted 3rd overall in 1990. He was one of the first 300-plus pound big men to get after the quarterback. He finished his career with 58 sacks, 8-time Pro Bowler, 5-time All-Pro, and Warren Moon referred to him today as the Gentle Giant. So, great guy, one of 9 former Seahawks in the Hall of Fame. Sad to see him go, especially at the age of 48, but,
They say at all...
I've not yet seen any cause of death. I'm sure that'll trickle out over the course of the week, but
we could definitely speculate, but spare us that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So really sad to see. By all accounts, great guy. So the 12s will miss him, and he'll certainly miss them. He remained a loyal Seahawks fan up until his death.
If you spent your entire career in one, that's...
Makes sense.
I don't care where you came from. That's, another home for sure.
Absolutely. So, they're through thick and thin. Other NFL news, Larry Fitzgerald has let reporters know that he does not want to answer questions about his future and or retirement. A lot of speculation that this will be his last year. He took some time this offseason to contemplate retirement, and he said he'll make a decision probably in July, but doesn't want to talk about it, so he might talk about it in July. He might wait until the end of the season. We'll see what happens. I, for one, Larry Fitzgerald is a great story. We actually shared an English teacher, Larry Fitzgerald and I. He was a Minnesota Vikings ball boy as a child, went to Pitt, had a pretty darn good career there, and he's been just an upstanding role model in Arizona. So, really cool story about him getting his college degree, to appease his mother and grandmother, which, a promise that he had made them. So, Larry Fitzgerald, great guy. Of course, the 2008 NFC Championship game is the only time I didn't like him, when he ran roughshod through the Eagles secondary. Let's not forget the non-call on the pass interference of Kevin Curtis on 4th down. But it would be really sad, the thought of Larry Fitzgerald retiring, but I guess Father Time, as we've said before on the show, is undefeated. We'll see what happens. Mike Glennon. Really animated there for Mike Glennon. No one perked up, in case the listeners are wondering. So Mike Glennon has declared that 2017 is in fact his year, and he's not even worried about the future because this is his year. Mike Glennon.
I think it's my year too. So
exactly.
Why am I concerned about his year? I have my own to worry about.
Your number one receiver is Cameron Meredith, and Kendall Wright is behind him. Raise your hand or speak up if you think Mike Glennon is going to have a great year.
Isn't she Kim Kardashian's sister or something?
I think so.
With that receiving core, I don't know if I'd want it to be my year.
Exactly. I don't think Mike Glennon is going to have a good year, and I don't think he finishes the season as a starter. I think he starts week 1, but beyond that, it's anyone's guess.
If you can get it done with whatever you got, you get it done. So place your bets now.
We
I
shall
will bet
see.
very little, if any.
I wish I could go back and put money on the Cubbies.
Yes. We got some news we have some news in the NFL in the petulant child realm. Sheldon Richardson, the defensive end / tackle for the New York Jets, who they've been trying to trade for, it seems like, forever.
3 years.
Realistically, 2 full years. He, of course, famously battled with Brandon Marshall. They had a very public feud in the locker room. And he, quote, said, "We have 15 reasons the Jets are better." Brandon Marshall obviously wore number 15. So Brandon Marshall has BPD, borderline personality disorder, and he's an advocate for mental health. I happen to love Brandon Marshall, and I think he's a great guy. Some people think he's outspoken at times, but a lot of guys are, right? So
talented receiver.
Absolutely, he's been one of my favorite players to watch for a very long time. And Sheldon Richardson just continues to put his own foot in his mouth. What's the point? Marshall's gone. He's on another team. And the Jets brass really want to see Sheldon Richardson mature, and it's just not happening. So we'll see what
often
happens.
when someone tries to take shots at someone where it's it's not relevant to, it's just showing their own feelings, really.
Yeah.
Their own insecurities.
Absolutely, completely unwarranted. It's just really annoying to see Sheldon Richardson continue to be petulant. Yeah. So
immature.
That'll do it. In very, very, very positive news, I'm a big supporter of the F Cancer campaign. David Quessenberry practiced for the first time since 2014. He was a 6th-round draft pick in 2013, offensive lineman for the Houston Texans. Now they've held on to him, and they've basically paid his contract through the duration of the rookie contract. He has defeated non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and he's back on the field. Really rooting for that guy. We're actually about the same age. And David Q, be a great story. He was actually, you got to see him on Hard Knocks during his battle against non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So he'll be, hopefully he can be a la Eric Berry, another player to beat cancer and make an impact on the field. Obviously, everyone should be really happy for him.
No doubt.
In other news, I saved the best for last. Being an Eagles fan, Cowboys defensive end David Irving is facing a 4-game suspension for PEDs. An already thin group at defensive end for the Cowboys. You have the perpetually injured DeMarcus Lawrence, air quotes, coming back. And you drafted Taco Charlton. I say you, I'm directing it at Tom, the resident Cowboys fan.
Yep.
David Irving being out for 4 games. Big loss, not much impact. What do you think?
I don't think it's a huge impact. I mean, obviously, you don't want to see any of your guys get...
I'm already going to pause you there.
Nope, I'm speaking.
We're gonna reel this in. I just want to make one observation / comment that going into the draft, you weren't overly worried about defensive end because you have David Irving. But continue.
It's only 4 games, which, I mean, obviously is still something, but it's better than Randy Gregory, who's out for like the next 10 years pretty much.
He's done. So Gregory's done, and
Gregory's done.
4 games is a quarter of your season.
But like you said, they drafted a guy in the first round, Taco Charlton. They have a 4th-round pick from last year, Charles Tapper, coming in. Maybe he can play a little bit. But Rod Marinelli likes to switch out his linemen, so it's not really like one guy is just on there all the time. So it's more of a rotation.
If we're talking about the 2016 Cowboys, it was one guy, and his name was David Irving. So I think this is a huge loss for the Cowboys, and they're really going to feel the hurt.
Taco.
I'm kind of speculating here, but no player has ever won this appeal. It's the same exact appeal that Lane Johnson had last year about a supplement. Dating back to the Pat and Kevin Williams in Minnesota. No one's ever won this appeal. So I don't expect David Irving wins the appeal, but he is a Cowboy, so you never know.
Yeah, they like the Cowboys there.
They do.
No
All right.
argument there.
No argument there. All right, that was the news around the NFL. We're actually going to jump into our first fantasy mock draft round 1. Way too early for the 2017 NFL season. Mm-hmm. We're going to get a little fancy here. There's 3 of us, and we're going to go a 12-team draft in a PPR league. PPR, of course, means point per reception, If you don't know what that means, feel free to Google it. But it's fantasy football is a delight, and it's a way of life for us here. I like to consider myself...
at least a few months out of the year.
Exactly. I like to consider myself a bit of an expert when it comes to fantasy football.
Really?
I do, absolutely.
How'd you do last year?
Ooh, man, Tom. Tom has thrown shade.
Not that I did much better, but...
Exactly. But
I mean, typical Cowboys fan, we point out like one time where you didn't succeed and use that to say everything that you are.
Hey, I've been in a league with you for 2 years. 1 year you didn't have great, so that's 50-50 right there.
That's 50-50. What did I do the other year, Tom?
I honestly don't remember. I'm assuming you did pretty well, but...
I did. But I won't toot my own horn here. We're going to jump.
Except for when you called yourself an expert.
Exactly.
Except for when
I said I like to consider myself an expert. I don't know what other people consider me.
Yeah.
You gotta have confidence in yourself. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I feel like that's an enlightened sentence.
It is.
Now we're just going to talk philosophy.
Yep.
All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to start off with pick 1, and we're going to rotate 2 being Tom, 3 being Bill, and we're going to just kind of continue in that pathway where I'll be 4 and so on. And we'll just draft our first round of a PPR.
And
see where we land.
I get to pick Blaine Gabbert first, right?
You can if you'd like.
All right, cool.
I mean, he is the backup quarterback for Arizona.
Yeah, so you never know.
So, yeah, he's getting all the points, I know.
Exactly. Carson Palmer. All right, so let's just jump right into it. Coming off a season where he had 1,284 yards and 12 touchdowns with the first overall pick in this PPR league, I'm taking Antonio Brown, wide receiver from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Also, just because I love saying it, he went to Central Michigan, and their team is the Chippewas. So, there's that. Moving along to the second pick, Tom, what do you got?
I'm going to go with Julio Jones. Since we're doing a PPR league, I think receivers are a little more valuable. And personally, I think he's better than Antonio Brown. I think he's more physically dominating.
I don't disagree, but he doesn't get as many catches.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, he's definitely the argument for someone who may be better than Antonio Brown. It's one or the other.
You don't think Jordan Matthews is in that conversation?
He's almost there, not quite there yet.
Right.
Are we judging them purely on slot production the past couple
Or
years?
ability to catch the ball?
Oh, then, yeah. I won't make that argument then. I could try, but
fair enough.
I don't want to waste our time. We're moving along, right?
All right, yeah. Third pick. Bill, who you got?
I'm going to go Jordy Nelson.
Jordy Nelson. I also had him ranked 3rd.
Yeah, really? I mean, you can't go wrong with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the past couple years haven't been his best, but Aaron Rodgers at not his best is still head and shoulders over most of everybody that's ever existed.
Yeah, you're talking about a guy who's perfected the back shoulder catch, coming off a season with 1,257, that's 1,257 yards and 14 scores, coming off of an injury. Mm-hmm. Jordy Nelson and Aaron Rodgers.
He was kind of slow to start the year, too.
Right, they share a brain. The guy will get you 80 to 90 yards a game and a touchdown every week.
Yeah, if he can stay healthy, which he has been able to do the past, 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah,
the man's a monster.
Obviously, the torn ACL.
It's the thing.
Yeah,
I mean the two of them it's money, man. It's money.
Yeah. I'm riding the Nelson train coming into this season. We'll see what happens.
That's that's Peyton Manning and Emmanuel Sanders, a few years ago.
There you go. Jumping back into me, I'm going to pick for Team 4, and I'm going to go with a little bit of a curveball here. I know it's a PPR, but I'm going to go with David Johnson, the running back for the Arizona Cardinals. The guy had 2,100 all-purpose yards, 879 receiving yards last year, and a combined 20 touchdowns rushing and receiving. So you can't go wrong with David Johnson. The offense runs through him, even if quarterback X, whether it's Palmer, Stanton, or Gabbert, struggles. David Johnson will get his touches, he'll get his yards, he'll get his scores. So, David Johnson, really safe pick, and he's my number 1 running back on the board.
All right, for team number 5, I'm going to go with Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, good pick.
I like how they added some weapons around him so he's not getting double covered pretty much every play, plus Jameis Winston loves throwing to him.
He absolutely does. I mean, when a guy has a catching radius of a 2-car garage, that's pretty epic.
I would like that too.
Yeah. So while he did lead the NFL in targets last year at 173, I don't think he'll come anywhere close to that number.
Probably not.
But I think his production will stay about the same, if not better, due to having complementary weapons around him. Yeah. So, good pick.
So I'm going to go with number 6. I'm going to take A.J. Green who is obviously the best weapon on the Bengals, and I just see them having more of like a bounce back year. The redheaded goblin didn't have that great of a year last year, and I'm not a big fan to begin with. Sorry, that was my phone that did that. I'm not a big fan of what's his name, the redheaded goblin.
Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton. I don't think he's very great, but he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's serviceable.
Yeah, absolutely.
He can get into AJ Green.
Yeah. And I think
he's no Brock Lobster.
Yeah. He's no Blaine Gabbert.
Sure.
So,
I love for Blaine Gabbert today.
So, but between him and AJ Green, that's at number 6. I feel that's an okay pick.
It is an okay pick, but I will share some of my personal insight here. I have a pretty steadfast rule. I never draft AJ Green. I cross him off of my draft board. I don't trust him. He disappears for weeks at a time. He'll have monster games here, but he is one of the most roller coaster style players. Now, last year he was pretty consistent up until the injury, but 964 yards, just about 100 yards every game, but only 4 touchdowns. AJ Green is a solid pick. He's a true number 1 receiver. I just have personal preference. I never draft the guy.
Understandable.
Circling back to me again, I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path here in a PPR league. I'm going to go running back again. I'm going to go Le'Veon Bell, running back Pittsburgh Steelers, coming off a season with 1,268 yards rushing, 616 receiving, and 9 combined touchdowns. I think actually he has a little bit of a better year this year than he did last year. Maybe he'll finally get that full season of games.
One can hope.
And obviously the touchdown production would likely go up there. And now with D'Angelo Williams departing the team, Le'Veon Bell should eat up some more of those carries.
They'll definitely want to lean on him more,
right?
For sure. Not that they don't lean on him significantly already.
Yeah, so I think he's your other. You look at the top 2 running backs, especially in PPR. You want those guys who are going to end up with 500 plus yards receiving a year. Lev Bell is certainly one of those guys.
Yeah. All right, for my next pick, I'm going to go with Odell Beckham Jr. He obviously has his antics that he goes up to, but he puts up numbers.
He stuffs the stat sheet.
He's good for 1,400 yards a year and 10 touchdowns.
Coming off a season with 13, 67, and 10, it's hard to argue with that.
So I just feel in a PPR league, obviously, and with the additions of Brandon Marshall and Evan Ingram, I just feel like
open things up for him.
Kind of like the Mike Evans situation, just give him more room to operate.
Sometimes more is better.
Yeah.
Moving on into pick number 9, Bill, what do you have?
I'm going to go Zeke Elliott.
Zeke.
They're still that O-line, and unless they get a lot of injuries out of nowhere, which that line hasn't. I think he's going to have another year reminiscent of last year.
I would love for that to not happen.
Yeah, me too. But I'm not number 9. This is not real. So.
Yeah. So Zeke, he led the NFL in rushing last year, 1631 and 15 scores. Also contributed 363 yards and a score through the air. So good for Zeke. I do think the retirement of Doug Free and the uncertainty of La'el Collins' position will affect them, in addition to a year's worth of game film on Dak and Zeke. I don't think he soars quite as high as he did, but he's certainly a solid pick at the 9th pick of the first round.
Like I said, reminiscent of last year.
Absolutely.
Not quite repeating it.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Coming on to pick 10, I'm going to go a little out there. I'm going to go with the NFL receiving yards leader from 2016. I'm going to go T.Y. Hilton here. 1,448 yards and 6 scores last year. If we're talking PPR, we want a guy who gets the rock a lot. Philip Dorsett has been a massive disappointment. Dante Moncrief has been a sort of a disappointment. Jack Doyle's been a bit of a surprise at tight end, but I think T.Y. Hilton continues to get the rock. Andrew Luck obviously loves him, and I think he'll continue to put yards up, and he's also a home run threat. So in leagues where you get bonus points for 50-plus yard touchdowns, look out for T.Y. Hilton, the speedster.
All right, for my last pick of this first round, I'm going to go really off kilter here and pick a running back that doesn't really get the receiving yardage. I'm going to go with Jordan Howard. I just feel like he's going to pretty much be their offense this year.
Well, to be fair, he put up about 300 receiving yards last year, so you're within that realm.
But like I said, I don't like Mike Lennon. Trubisky's young, They have a decent offensive line, not great, but not horrible either. And he was the second leading rusher in the NFL last year, I believe.
After
Zeke.
I don't have him in order here, but it looks like that's correct. He had 1,313 yards
What was it
rushing.
I think Murray after him.
I believe so.
Could have been. I don't have it in front of me, but
Sure.
I mean he was in the top 4.
Yeah, but I think year 2 is going to be pretty big for him.
Yeah, and it's actually not a bad thing for a guy who usurped an injured player in Jeremy Langford, who was expected to be the guy.
Great pickup by me that year.
Oh, here we go. All right, so Jordan Howard, I really like that pick, even in a PPR league in the first round. At pick 12, to round out the first round, Bill, who do you have?
All right, so the last pick of the round, I'm going to give to Amari Cooper. You're talking about a fairly stacked offense for Oakland, and Amari Cooper is one of the bigger pieces of it, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, he put up 11.53 and 5 last season. I certainly expect it to go up. I think we're at that point now where Crabtree starts to decline a little bit, and Cooper starts to really become that force of that number 1 receiver, a la Julio Jones, right? Alabama players, both very, very similar.
Yeah.
Plus adding Marshawn Lynch,
And Jared Cook.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely got the size and the skill set. I think he could be, he could be a Julio.
And one of the rising star quarterbacks in this league as well.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt.
I want to give a couple honorable mentions that didn't quite make it in the first round that I think, obviously, in our way too early predictions that will make big impacts that could potentially also be first-round players. Maybe if you want to go a little bit outside of the norm, you don't maybe trust one of these guys that we named for injury reasons or for this or that, the third thing. I want to throw out a couple players. I think DeAndre Hopkins has a major bounce-back year, coming off a year with less than 1,000 yards and 4 scores. I think he gets back into that 1,200-yard range and 6 to 8 scores. Lamar Miller, I think he gets, oddly enough, with a little bit of a break. I think he has a little bit better of a statistical season. I think he'll stay about the same in rushing yards, a little bit over 1,000, but I think his 188 receiving yards goes pretty north with Deontay Foreman coming into the fold. Des Bryant coming off a season with 796 and 8 scores. I think that number bumps up a little bit. I know that Cole Beasley and Jason Witten are safety blankets for Dak, but I think they're not going to be able to just morph and run the same offense that they did a year ago. They're going to have to go back to getting the ball to the outside.
They're definitely going to have to stretch the field more than they did.
Yeah.
I don't see them being able to keep everything so tight and safe.
And if you throw up a couple jump balls to Des Bryant a game, he's going to come down with a few of them.
Yeah.
And last but not least, as much as I don't like him, the guy's future and his money are depending on this. Alshon Jeffrey, wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he is your cusp mid-second, early second, possibly a late first, maybe if you're a 16-team league. Alshon Jeffrey, I think he puts up number 1 receiver numbers. Carson Wentz put up a pretty cool stat line for having garbage pails at receivers, right? It was reminiscent of the James Thrash, Todd Pinkston years last season, and we actually had more drops than we did with those guys. But I think Alshon Jeffrey, his career is really riding on this make-or-break season. I think he puts up pretty good.
I think as Eagles fans, we definitely, even if we don't really, like you said, don't like him per se. I know you don't. I'm fairly indifferent, but the development of Carson Wentz, the performance of the receivers around him, that's going to be a factor, and I definitely want to see him hopefully be great 10 years from now. So
fantastic. But
it would be good if they're at least pretty good this year.
I do want to caution, however, that I think he's going to be a catches and yardage guy. He's not really over the past 3 years been a touchdown guy. You're talking, I believe, 2 years ago he may have had 1 touchdown, and last year he had 2. Not really a touchdown hog. Maybe that can change. He's a big guy. Carson Wentz get the ball, rifle it in there in the end zone, but in the red zone. But we'll see what happens. But I do like Alshon Jeffrey in a PPR league in that mid-second, early second range. And like I said, if you have a deeper 14 or 16 team league, I would certainly consider him at the back end of the first round.
I was definitely considering him, at 12, but I also didn't just want to be a homer.
Exactly. It's kind of difficult.
Yeah.
But there you have it. That's actually 16 names in our 12 pick first round PPR mock draft. Way too early.
Yeah, I think you need 3 more ways in there.
A few more ways, but let us know what you think. Shoot us a comment. Go on the website. Drop us a line. Shoot us an email. Do whatever you do. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at DBC_football. Check us out on the web, www.dbcfootball.com. Check us out on YouTube, DBC Football. And, make sure you subscribe, like, share, get us out there, help us out. We really appreciate it. So, we want to make sure to
stay humble,
drink craft beer,
have a good time, and love football. Thanks a lot, guys. See you next time.